It probably looks like I'm about to say something really important. Less is more. Is that why I came out to the woods? Or this little trail? It's not really in the deep woods, but anyway. I noticed that when I say less, people ask more questions. People show more interest. Now, that doesn't mean that just sitting there and saying nothing is automatically going to get people interested in you. I mean, it might, depending on the occasion, but you kind of got to use your brain and determine, okay, is this the right occasion for me just to stay quiet? A lot of times, if you approach a new person to meet them, like let's say you're out at the bar socializing, you approach a new person to meet them, and you're doing most of the talking first. And then you start to hang back a bit. When you start to hang back a bit, a lot of times it'll draw them in, especially if you've already kind of captured their interest. If I'm at a party with a bunch of new people and I sit down in the middle of everybody and I start talking about myself and I start asking everybody questions, and as quickly as possible I try to get comfortable in the environment and get to know everybody, I come off as insecure. I come off as like I have to prove myself and I have to get to know everybody just to feel comfortable in this environment right away, instead of easing into it and just naturally letting that happen. It comes off insecure. I mean, think about that from now, a person from the party perspective. You're at a house, at one of your friends' houses. You all know each other. The new guy comes in. In scenario A, the new guy starts talking. He's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Starts talking about himself like over and over again, and then everybody's like, yeah, okay, yeah. You all have to nod your heads and just accept the new guy, and he has to talk, and he's frantic, and he's insecure, or he seems insecure. Scenario B, new guy comes in, he's calm, cool, and collected, doesn't give a shit, sits down, maybe says a couple things, but then, you just you get to know him over the course of the night. Which guy is more interesting? I mean, really, he's also just comfortable to be around. The last time I filmed a video in this area, somebody said it looked like a swamp. It's not a swamp, it's a lake. That goes out into a lake. This is a little bay area. The thing that I remind myself of when I'm on a date or when I'm hanging out with new people is I don't need to prove myself. If I ever find myself just trying to prove myself, like talking too much to try to get validation from other people or to try to get attention, I just stop myself and I remind myself, like, dude, you're fine. You're you, no matter what. You're Troy, no matter what. And it's a little easier for me to do this now than it used to be. I just noticed at a recent friend gathering that I was invited to, and where I was meeting new people. On dates, I notice it too. If I'm on a date, just I don't know, having those moments of silence and being completely comfortable with them just makes more intrigue. It leaves room for more interest on her part. Even after the date. Even with texting after the date, there's more interest coming from her. Did you ever notice that on a podcast or at a party or whatever, if you're talking to somebody new, do you ever just wish that they'll shut up? It sounds mean. It sounds mean, but this is something that I pay attention to for my own awareness of myself. I don't want to be the person that's talking way too much. Sometimes it's necessary to talk a lot, right? If you have something to say or something to explain, sure. But if you're just justifying yourself or trying to explain yourself or talking about yourself, just think about that type of person. I notice it on podcasts sometimes. There's a lot of podcasts out right now where they have these viral headlines. It'll be something about men and women, women today are this, or men today are that, men are whatever. And they'll have a guest on the podcast, and that person will be defensive with every answer that they have, or they'll over-explain everything just to make themselves seem better. And then if somebody else disagrees with them, and no, you're and then they play victim, and then they... This sounds like more I'm just annoyed by like a specific person. I'm thinking of like a specific podcast. The person who talks the most, mostly coming from a place of like defending their own beliefs or like explaining themselves just so other people understand, to have other people agree with you, or else you get really, really, really insecure. It's insecurity because it means that your own beliefs aren't strong enough that you can hold them and also argue or like have a conversation about somebody else's beliefs. It's kind of funny that like being open-minded and not just over-explaining your beliefs and being curious about other people's beliefs and being open-minded about other people's beliefs, it does make you seem more interesting because other people like that. Other people like it when you're open-minded to their beliefs. You know, like when you sit there, I just noticed this in social situations. If I sit there and I'm like genuinely interested in somebody, and I'm like, really? Okay. And I'm not just asking questions to keep the conversation going. I'm like genuinely curious about them, asking questions about them. Usually they'll talk and they'll feel understood. If I'm really making the effort to understand them, they'll feel more understood and they'll be more interested in me, like back, you know, like reciprocating that same kind of energy. I've given them my attention and my understanding of them, so they're kind of like giving that back to me. But anyways, back to the talk and you just want them to shut up. I just want to highlight that point because like I can think of specific instances where I just see a person like talking about themselves, and I tend to be a little bit too nice. Sometimes I get caught up in like, yeah, yeah, giving them subtle little signals to shut the front door. I don't know what kinds of people are watching this, so I'm filtering myself. But like, giving them subtle signals to shut up, and they're just not doing it. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you just gotta shut up. Sometimes you just gotta shut up and do the thing that a lot of people are most uncomfortable doing. Just being, just sitting in the silence. And I'm not saying like doing that the whole time. I'm just saying like it's okay to have like a couple seconds of silence every once in a while. It's not going to kill you. That should be like the base of your interactions. A lot of people make the base of their interactions, the base of their conversations, talking. You know, like, hey, how's it going? Oh, cool. Blah, 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 blah. Like, there's like no space at all. But like, I like to flip that and make the base of the conversation silence. Where I'm just like, oh, hi, how are you? Yeah, cool. Blah, blah. It's like you're adding to the silence rather than trying to like run away from the silence, if that makes sense. You know, if you meditate, you might understand that. So before my hands freeze off, I want to talk about the last point. And it's mystery equals romance, or romance equals mystery. When you're on a date with somebody and you give them your life story right away, now people like text way too much before dates now. I prefer to get right to the date because I prefer in person. You show up to the date and it's like you've been texting this person. It's not even really exciting anymore. Where's the mystery? You know, part of going on a date for the first time with somebody is like the mystery of like, oh, are we going to get along or are we not? I don't know. Are we going to like each other? I don't know. And then during the date even, it's like if you give that person your life story, it's like you're kind of laying it all out on the table at first. And they just like, when you lay it all out on the table at first, it kind of forces the other person to make a decision of whether they want to keep hanging out with you or not. And you might say like, oh, well, that's just being straightforward, right? Not really, because you can talk and tell somebody everything about yourself, but they don't really know about you unless they spend more time with you, unless they do some activities with you and see how you behave during certain activities, like you play darts together. The best way to actually get to know if you really, really are compatible with somebody, I've heard, is to take a road trip with them. And it makes sense, right? I've done this with friends where I'll I'll be good friends with somebody for a while, and then I go on a really long trip with them, maybe like 5 days or 5-10 days, like some trip, or maybe even just a weekend trip. And you're maybe sharing a hotel room, you're sharing different things, you're sharing different spaces, you're sharing the plane, you're sharing the car, whatever. You're sharing space together over time, and that's something that you can't learn what you're learning then just by like talking on a date or something, or just by talking to somebody in a conversation. When it comes to romance and dates, leaving a little bit of mystery, leaving a little bit off the table is a good thing. Like, no story is romantic and like entertaining to listen to or to read if you know exactly what's going to happen. Now, this is a video on how to seem more interesting. If you actually want to be a more interesting person, I would urge you to do 2 things. 1, start living your life to the fullest. Lean into who you are. Lean into whatever hobbies, whatever they may be, whatever life that you want to leave, lean into it. Because you might not think that you're that interesting, but think about what you spend most of your time doing. Even if you think that it might be boring to other people, somebody's going to find it interesting. What you do with your spare time, what you do with your day, what you do for a career, this, that, and the other. And if you're truly passionate about it, then of course they'll find it interesting, because they'll see the passion in you when you talk about it and when you're living your life. However, if you're not passionate about anything that you do, then maybe you should change your life a bit. Maybe you should start doing things that you're passionate about. And then maybe you'll have a more interesting life, not only to other people, but for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to seem more interesting. I'll see you next time.